Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Move, a show where we share transportation, sales, and marketing success stories. I am Jennifer Carpus Romain, Executive Director of the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association, a trade nonprofit educating and connecting marketing and sales professionals in transportation and logistics. And today on the show, I'm very excited to have Agustin, who is the VP of Logistics and Warehousing at Mitsubishi's Power Americas. Welcome to the show, Agustin. How are you doing today?
Hey, Jennifer, glad to be here. Thanks for the invite and building momentum into our October event, right?
Absolutely. You are going to be one of our featured panelists at the Executive Summit, which is October 22nd through the 23rd. So I'm very excited to talk to you today to get to learn a little bit more about you and then get to meet you in person in October.
Perfect.
So you've built a pretty robust career in logistics and supply chain, which has led to your current role at Mitsubishi Power. What path took you here and what has been that those big defining moments along the way?
Cool. Yeah, I always like to start from the beginning, right? So I started roughly 20 years ago in logistics. That wasn't planned, right? I kind of stumbled into a logistics role, and then I stay for the last 20 years. So that was back in Argentina. I was born in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. Only came to the US roughly 10 years ago. Has been quite of a ride over the last 10 years. And yeah, so I started from the trenches in a way, right? So these days, yes, I lead a team. Yes, we talk strategy. We set the tone of what logistics for Mitsubishi Power Americas looks like, but it wasn't always that way. That wasn't always my role within the team. So I started really as a logistic analyst, almost as a logistic clerk, to be honest, and just running errands for the logistics department, and then doing documentation, managing shipments, working at the warehouse with the inventory colleagues, and then I always interested into improving things, right? Try to change things for the better, hopefully for the better. So always interested in driving change, driving culture within the teams, no matter the size of the team, and no matter my role within the team. I always wanted one of those guys that wanted to do more and get engaged, right? Getting engaged is probably one of the drivers of my career. And those defining moments probably was when you get to from a team lead to a manager, right? Getting into leading others, being able to show how you can influence others into a positive way, also helping others to grow and develop. That for me has been the most impactful and defining moment in my career, more than shipments, more than projects in a way. So be able to help others grow, that allows me to grow, right? That's probably what I gravitate in my logistic career, and actually in my logistics leadership journey in a way, right? So now, over the last couple years, certainly evolved more into a broader supply chain, not just the logistic aspect, right? But this is pretty much what my journey has been.
I love that. One, so many of us end up in logistics and supply chain by accident, and then we stay here. And I also really liked how you talked about that this defining moment for you is really being able to help other people in their career and how that helps your journey, because that's something that I have come into my own with as well over the past couple of years. I feel like for a while I had this imposter syndrome and where I felt like I wasn't qualified to do anything. And it was the moment that I started mentoring people and helping other people in their career that I was like, there was like a light bulb that switched.
Yep.
But I was like, oh, I do know things and I can help other people and I do have value and I've built this career and I have all this experience. And that was like a huge defining moment. So that resonated a lot with me because that's how I feel as well.
And it's really how we can, in a way, when you try to separate yourself a little bit from the trenches and the day-to-day, not separate to like isolate you, but right, try to see the broader picture, right, the bigger picture, and focus on the right talent, the right people, empowering the people. uh, I also had that imposter syndrome for a very long time, kind of questioning if I was up to these
Mhm.
leadership roles, what is expected. I do have high expectations always for me, for the team. So now navigating through all that, it's a constant defining moment in a way, never
Yeah,
ending defining moment.
absolutely. And it sounds like your role now really blends that logistics strategy, digitalization, process improvement, building up your team. So obviously that building up your team part excites you, but how do you, put it all together and keep things moving along for your company as well?
Yeah, in my role, I certainly we are in the power generation business, right? Mitsubishi Power is the leading provider in solutions and equipment for power generation, and therefore my team supports the three main business units that we have. So manufacturing, projects or new units, right? New power plants, and then service, right? Where we support our service, our customers with service over the 15 years, 20-year programs, and so on. So I have people in those three verticals. That's more into execution, really. And I do have our large warehousing team. Then also have responsibility over contracting for logistics and transportation, right? Which is a team of uh, two people doing all the contracting, RFPs, more the commercial side. And over the last couple of months, also got into supply chain operational excellence, which is broader digitalization, talent development, governance, processes, and so on, not just for logistics, but for our entire supply chain team. So I think it's a good blend of strategy, right, where I focus a little more on strategy, culture, governance topics, and so on, while I have a strong team. Overall, we are a team of 64 people in my organization. So I do have a strong team that takes care of the business and take care of the operations happening in each of those businesses. So I grew up from, as we were saying before, I grew up from the operation, right? So that's where I started. So I have a tendency to want to get involved, right? So I try to stay not away, but let the team work on the operation itself, try focus more on enabling people, right, and removing roadblocks for them to shine, and really setting the strategy, setting what we call a logistics north star. We kind of know where we want to go, right? It's up to us as a team to define how we do it. That's why I don't like to call it too much of a logistics strategy. I think a north star is probably better fit in this case. It's more of a framework, and how we get there is not just to up to me to define, but as a team, right? So that's how I try to things. I try to how I try to build culture within the team, and it's bridging the strategy into operations and the other way around, right? It's a constant feed
Mhm.
of ideas.
Absolutely. And what kind of challenges do you typically face then when coordinating like break bull or heavy lift logistics across these global mega product projects that you guys do? And then how can your logistics partners help you with that?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I think we have a lot of diverse challenges depending on which business or which business unit we are supporting in a way, right? So the challenges our manufacturing team handling where we handle all the inbounds for them into our factory in Savannah, Georgia, right? So when we handle all those inbounds, a constant flow of containerized cargo, air freight, regular full truckloads and so on. Same for our service team. That's a lot of hot shots, expedited freight, but mainly air freight and full truckloads, right? Yeah, we have step decks, we have some specialized equipment, but pretty much is a lot of shipments, fast-paced environment. There's always someone at site working on an outage for a customer that needs that golden bolt that we just missed and we need it right away, right? We can have the crew waiting on site. So there's a lot of those kind of last minute and type of inquiries that rely on a lot of on service level. Now, those are certain challenges. Now, if you go to the project business, right, it's more about an engineered solution, budgets, risk, how we manage risk, how we manage the quality. If we are lifting a £1,000,000 piece of equipment, right, that's a different type of challenge from a hot shot. Not different, not more or less important, just different, right? Having a crew waiting or a customer waiting for us to deliver a bolt or a washer that we missed for whatever reason or that is needed can be as impactful as delivering a gas turbine, right, from scratch. So that's really why it's the different challenges in different sides of the business. So it's about quality, it's about risk and service level, I would say. And
Absolutely.
how your other question was how providers can help now navigate with all that. I think it all depends of the blend of providers we use and the type of providers we use for each of those segments in a way, right? We have segmented in a way the market into the providers we may use for this business unit may not be the same ones we use for our project business. We have to be smart about. Lots of providers will say, I can do it all. And I get that. I've been speaking a lot about that lately in speaking engagements and so on. But really, what are you excelling at? What are you best? And what you can provide value in each of those segments that we have.
Absolutely. I love that you touched on that. That's something that I talk to my members a lot about, that one of the biggest mistakes that I think people do in their sales and marketing is that, oh, we can do it all. And you guys are like, we don't care that you can do it all. What can you do for what I need you to do? Right. And I feel like there's a missed opportunity there. Like there's some business functions that being all in one and being able to do everything is great. Like I love when like a technology can do everything for me because I don't want to log into 8 different things. But when you're talking about logistics and making sure that your stuff gets from point A to point B in the way that you need it on the time that you need it and the trust that you need to be able to do it, you need to know how they can do that for you. And you do have bigger parts. So what does that look like? And so having that talk track of making that personalization to you guys, I think is incredibly important. So
and there are a lot of providers. There are a lot of providers that really can do it all. The question is, can they excel at doing it all, or do they excel at a piece of it? And I think for us as shippers, for me, always the key has been to identify who can excel from a provider, from a perspective of our people, talent, right? It's talent to action, basically, right? Where we can put these people to shine. Either you are a provider, a carrier, or one of our colleagues in the team. Are you doing what you do best and what you do better, right? So that applies both sides, and we have to. We shipper, from my perspective, we have to be very, very, I would say, careful, but open to be able to segment that in that way.
And with so much turbulence, transformation in global supply chains right now, is there a key trend that you're seeing that's really going to shape up over the next year?
In terms of turbulence and uncertainty, I would say it's certainly tariffs, right? That's one of the key topic, and the uncertainty around tariffs. In a way, there's stop and go type behavior that we have seen over the last 9 months or so, where something gets announced, then later postponed and back again, and so on. So that adds uncertainty in terms of how we make decisions. The horizon to plan and decide is really very short. And then has been over the last 5 years, nothing new to what I will say, but I think it's about pick your poison, right? The next bottleneck, the next disruption is going to come. You just have to plan and have the resiliency to be able to pivot quickly, from port congestion to potential port strikes to lack of capacity. So it's like again, pick your poison. And sometimes we make decisions understanding the risk, and that somewhere in that transit, somewhere in that chain, we will find the risk. And then we have to weigh, okay, which is the risk we're taking, right? Which one we can absorb, which one we have to sometimes deal with it and live with it. So I think it's infrastructure when it comes to projects, right? When it comes to heavy units, we move a lot of units by rail. We face degrading infrastructure in the U.S. in many different ways, right? So our equipment gets bigger, larger, which adds challenges to transport. On the other side is also a degrading infrastructure in terms of road, bridges, and so on, right? So you have to be able to balance all that and understand what the risks are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And as we look out, the next 12, 18 months, are there any emerging capabilities or technologies that you believe will become really essential for logistics teams and being able to kind of help you navigate some of those challenges?
Yeah, so I think we need to separate the cut through the noise with all these AI buzz, right? So strong believer in AI and capabilities. I think over the next couple months, if not a year, we will really see what are the use cases that survive and what are the players that survive through all this AI, especially when it comes to logistics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have found yet, and a lot of us struggle really with, shippers struggle with data, right? We try to talk AI before we start talking or organizing and our data and make our data robust. So that's a bridge that has been, in my experience, not just here but also in previous companies I work for, and always has been about the data accuracy, availability, how fragmented the data is in corporations. And that's probably what we need to embrace AI. So I think AI, how we can accelerate that, and also not just for the major AI driven tools, but also how our teams embrace AI in their day-to-day activities, right? How we can cut through the more redundant, still necessary, right? But repetitive type work, we can optimize that with AI and focus on the meaningful, impactful, and value-adding type of task. So I think that's going to be accelerated over the next 12 months or so. Has been really accelerated over the last 2 years, I would say, but still, I don't think we're quite there. There's a lot of buzz, so we need to, like again, try to cut through the noise and all these AI and buzzwords in a way.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think with any new technology or any new capability, we can get so distracted by all of the bells and the whistles and everything that's happening. But I like when you're like, we have to do our own data, make sure we like what our starting point is. And that's something that I think a lot of companies can resonate with and should really be thinking through. If you're adding anything new, any new technology, whether it's AI or not, what do you want it to do? And
Right.
that will help you cut out a lot of the noise instead of
Right.
just gravitating to everything that you see that's out there. What is it that you need? What will make your team better, more efficient? What are you looking to be able to do better, faster? And then go from there. I feel like that's such a key.
Absolutely. And two examples of that is, first, it's like we have been talking about blockchain bill of ladings for how long? 15 years,
Yeah.
right? Never came to a mass adoption of those. And then the other thing, which is more of something I read a few weeks ago, is 90% of the AI related implementations at big corporations are failing. That's 90%, right? So there's still a lot of room to go. Everyone is trying to invest in AI or saying we do something related to AI. But really, what's in the backbone of it, which is data, and that's what we probably should be focusing before to kind of try to walk before we run, right?
I agree. So switching gears a little bit, you will be a panelist at this year's TMSA Executive Summit, which we teased a little bit at the beginning of this. But what are you looking forward to coming to this event and getting to be a panelist for?
I think it's I never participated before in the event, so for me will be for me and my team will be the first time. So I like to see a more intimate type of discussions with real talk about, meaning this is an executive summit, right? So what are we at the executive level? What are the strategies we bring in? Less sales pitches, right? And more honest and real discussions about what we are experiencing, shippers, brokers, carriers, but more in that more intimate setup with a leadership tone, right? Not really the sales pitch. So that's what I'm really expecting for this one, and also understanding from others. In this case, the panel I will be joining, it's a good example of that. I think you all did a good job putting together a quite diverse panel. We all three come from different industries, so probably same challenges or similar challenges. But for me, it's about understanding how other industries are tackling those challenges, right? What others are doing, how those challenges affects them. That could be in a very, very different way that they affect the power generation business, right? If you're talking to in the food industry or on the tech side, I'm sure it's going to be different strategies of what they're doing that what we are doing here in the power generation or energy sector, right? So that real talk and also that diverse type of exchange is what I'm really looking for.
Well, I think that you'll get that when you come to Executive Summit, which is exciting. And yes, you're a panelist on a shippers panel that's moderated by Andrew Silver, and your other panelists will be from Key Distributors and Google. So we're really excited about this panel. We actually had this panel secured for months now. And so it's really exciting to have it come to fruition and be able to have it roll out pretty soon. I like that you talked about, yes, we put people together that might be having the same problems, but there's a different perspective. You guys are dealing with common challenges, but things will be different in your different segments, different industries. Is there any unique perspective that you think that you have that you're hoping the attendees will walk away with?
Yeah, it's more about, I would say I can talk about more the project logistics side, right? The big, heavy, bulky type cargo, which brings their own set of challenges. There are maybe some touching points. If we have Google on the panel, data centers, AI, that's driving the power generation demand for sure. That's one of the key drivers of the growth we see in the gas turbine market, right? How we serve those data centers, how we power and energize the data centers. So the investments in terms of infrastructure that tech companies have to go through these days, right? The Googles, the Amazons, the OpenAIs of this world, Microsoft, they all going through the same type of investment because they need power for their massive data center and the massive energy demand created by AI, plus other factors too, right? But AI and data centers is what keeping the power generation demand in the newspapers in the news these days. So getting to understand what others are doing in that regards and adding my perspective from a solution provider to those type of problems and demand capacity issues, So I think that would be quite interesting.
Absolutely. And if any listeners are interested in joining Agustin in the panel and myself in Chicago, October 22nd through the 23rd, you can register for Executive Summit at events.tmsatoday.org. And we are offering listeners of the show a special coupon code for 10% off, and you can use the code MOVE to Summit 10. So very excited for that and to have you there. Shippers panels are always one of my favorite things, just hearing your guys' perspective and really getting our executives, our sales and marketing leaders to be able to hear directly from you guys is incredibly important, which is awesome. So we started this conversation really talking about how you like to guide other people's careers and be a part of that. So you do lead supply chain operational excellence, and not just the processes, but the people, which is, something you've addressed that's important to you. And I think that this is really going to be in line with a lot of the rest of the programming at Summit this year. So we have our keynote talking about leading in turbulent times, and how we have another speaker talking about, how to do things on a global scale. And we talked earlier about tariffs and how that's a huge question mark for everybody and what that's going to mean. But how are you cultivating these high performing, resilient teams in a moment when talent challenges are just as critical as the technology and as everything else that's going on right now?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we have a quite diverse group of people that work. And I'm also very proud of that diversity that we have in the team. So if you look in, I was saying before, we are a team of 64 these days. We have some plans to grow the team further. Within those 64 people, 65 people, I can count 14, 15 different nationalities and backgrounds, right? So that's quite a diverse pool of talent there. With its traits and its challenges too, right? Because now we all coming from different means of life and cultures, and that also is something we all have to navigate. So first, diversity, right? And then that brings diversity of opinion, that brings diversity of ideas. And I really like to foster with my team the critical thinking. There's some things that we have done over the last 2 years or so, trying to foster that critical thinking, from lunch and learns, from article discussions that we do monthly. Some of them are voluntary. I mean, some of them are part of a curriculum of training to upskill the team. We just came 2 weeks ago from running our annual supply chain summit here in Orlando, where we had our entire supply chain organization for 3 days, roughly 170 people. And yes, we did have panels. Yes, we have content presentations, but it was a lot of fun, right? Trying to share with the team from luau night, Hawaiian type night, and I think that foster culture, collaboration. People really in our organization really look forward for that event, right? There's a lot of anticipation, as you have for your summit, right? There's a lot of anticipation and momentum going into these events, and I think that's really what builds culture and a tight team that can navigate all these turbulences. There has been a lot of into everyone in supply chain shoulders, right? Everyone has gone through a lot of difficulties and challenges over the last 5 years, right? Starting from the pandemic, a lot of efforts, a lot of pressure. Having fun is a key part of what we do. If we are not having fun, it's not just about the next shipment, right? It's not just about, it's really what we're doing, how much value we're adding, and how much fun we're having while doing it. So all that helps navigate through turbulences and stress and difficult moments, which we all have in our business daily, right? So we just have to be able to remove roadblocks and help the team to overcome those situations.
I agree. I think that when people are passionate about what they do or having fun, it gets through those hard moments a lot
Yeah.
better. And when you have a team that you can trust to help, kind of guide you through those moments is really important. So you talked about that. You talked about the fun. You talked about having the diversity of your team, which leads to diversity of thought to create, the best and strongest team. And then earlier, you talked about allowing your team to do the work and not kind of micromanaging them and doing all the things, even though you may like to do it. Are there any other leadership or cultural shifts that you're really championing that align with the bigger transformation in supply chain right now? Or did we already hit on all these bigger points that you're doing already?
No, the other one that I can think of right now, which is a leadership trait in a way, and typically we all should constantly be getting better at, is change management, right? So we embarked in a supply chain transformation over 2.5 years ago, roughly, and there has been a lot of change pushed to the team in terms of the way we work, who we work with suppliers we use, how we do contracting, with systems we use, and that it's a lot of change for people, right? A lot of change comes with stress. Change comes with the ability or having the ability to pivot and react quickly and adapt quickly. So how we lead through that change and change management process, I think that's one of the key leadership aspects, sometimes underrated, right? Sometimes overlooked in a way. So that's the other one. How all that diversity of opinions, of thought, of ideas or backgrounds can help us navigate through all that change. And we are changing in the middle of a turbulent environment, which is something also to consider, right? So the alternative is what? To stay stagnant and that may not help us, right? So we have to adapt. The environment adapts quickly, and we need to react to that while we also sharpening our saw in a way.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing everything that you shared today. Definitely makes me think about a lot of different things, which is great. I have one last question for you, and this is the question I ask everyone that comes on the show, and that's if you could go back in time and advise a younger Agustin anything, and this could be personally or professionally, when would you go back to, and what would you say?
Oh, that's a tough one. Only one thing, that's a tough one. So I would say it's don't be shy to don't hesitate to show up, and don't hesitate to show the value that you add, right? You talk about imposter syndrome at the beginning, and that's something that resonates with me, especially in my early years, right? So make sure you find your success story, and that success story may drive your career further, right? And it helps you advance your career. Not success story from a beauty contest perspective, right? Not to put lipstick on everything, but just understanding the value you adding and be able to lead or operate with a growth mindset. How that can help you is typically not the next shipment what's going to help you move on your career. Is those success stories, either you change something or you created something or you improve something, and that keeps you going. So be more aware of that's probably what I will tell my 20 something Agustin.
I think that's a great one. I think, yes, with imposter syndrome or doubting yourself, because like if you're looking and you're like, oh, I have a different idea or a different perspective, it scares you in your earlier parts of the career because you're like, why am I thinking differently? Why? And it takes a long time to make that shift that you're like, no, it's good to have it's good to have that diversity of thought, to have different people with different ideas, because if you just take the first idea every time, it's not ever going to be the best one. You have to really sit through that. So that took me a long time too. Like, oh, I have a different perspective. I have a different perception on this, but that's good. That means we're talking about it and we're putting out the best output we can because of that. So,
Yep, absolutely. That's it.
okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for joining us in October for our Executive Summit. Again, that's October 22nd to the 23rd. If you want to come hang out with me and Agustin, you can use this code, MOVE to Summit 10, to get a 10% off discount as a listener of On the Move. And you can register at events.tmsatoday.org. Thank you again for joining me on the show today.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you next month. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Looking forward to see everyone in Chicago. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.